is Tariq Talk. Your host, Tariq Mendez, takes you on a journey with guests from all around the world. Broadcasting around the world. Around the world. This is Tariq Talk.
All right, guys. Today I'm here with Jay Golden.
Yeah.
We previously met at Mana Contemporary during his ESKFF residency. Did I pronounce that right?
Yep.
Okay, because I always murder that ESKFF.
Yeah.
It's very difficult, by the way. So thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad we get to talk about your creative process, your inspirations, and much more. Do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So, born in Jamaica originally. I moved to the U.S. when I was 7. I actually came here the same day that Mike Tyson fought Holyfield. So
oh, wow.
Like, as soon as he bit his ear was when I walked into the house. It was my uncle's house. Everyone was watching the fight at my uncle's house.
Wow.
And so I just remember, I actually might do a painting of that one day.
That's pretty dope, yeah.
I just remember we knocked on the door, they opened the door, and everyone was like, ah!
Oh, my God.
Screaming. And I'm just looking around, just 7 years old.
What is going on? Yeah.
7 years old, just looking around like, what's going on? And then, like, I just remember looking at the TV, and they were showing the replay in slow motion.
Oh, wow.
I just saw him, like, biting in his ear and just spitting it off.
That's
but
crazy.
yeah, so I started drawing, like, at the age of 6, and then throughout my life, I would draw on and off, like, a lot of, when I first really was, like, developing my art as a child, a lot of it would be inspired by, like, comic book characters. My cousin, my older cousin, he drew as well, and he had a bunch of comic books and stuff like that, Spider-Man, Superman, and so a lot of times I would try to copy some of those characters, especially when I got into, like, Pokemon. I would sit for hours and draw Pokemon characters, but art was never something that I told myself, oh, I want to be an artist. It was just something that I enjoyed doing.
Yeah.
And after I graduated high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I was like, you know what? Like, I think I'm gonna study art because I enjoy doing it. I can sit for hours and doing it. It's just something that always brought me some type of joy and pleasure. And so I went to Essex County in Newark. But I did most of, like, my general education there, like math and everything like that. They didn't really have any good art classes. And then from there, I transferred to Kean University in Union. And that's when I, like, really had some good mentors. And from there, it was just, like, the rest was just kind of history.
Oh, wow. And you mentioned one thing I find fascinating, that you said that you enjoyed art as a kid, but you didn't think that you would pursue being an artist. I find that very fascinating because almost every guest that's an artist says the same thing until they get much older.
Yeah.
Which I find very interesting to think about.
Yeah, because it wasn't like a... there are artists in my family, but not really in terms of, like, the artistry in my family. A lot of them are musicians, especially, like, on my father's side with like reggae and things like that. And I didn't really go to any galleries. Like, once, I think there was one time I went to an art museum, might have been Newark actually, where my older cousin who I talked about, he used to love drawing. Everyone actually looked at him as an artist when we were younger. And so his mom used to take him to this life drawing class that they would do at the museum on Saturdays. And one Saturday I went with him, and we were drawing this sculpture. That's, like, the one thing that I remember from being a child, like the one interaction I had with, like, public art in any type of way. But besides that, it was just when I got to high school, I had art class and stuff, but it wasn't really, I didn't have a large exposure to art like how some children, like, they go to the museums and things like that. It wasn't like that. So I didn't really have anything that pushed me to say, oh yeah, I definitely want to be an artist. But it was, like, more of a innate thing. Like,
yeah,
I was just drawn to it.
And how would you describe your creative process? Do you like to work in the daytime, in the nighttime, or do you just, like, go and you just create whenever, like, inspiration hits you?
Yeah, so it changes. During the time when I was at ESKFF, it was more so in the daytime, and then I would leave, like, around 5, 6, sometimes 7 p.m. But but then there's periods where I'll stay up late and paint. Right now I'm kind of taking a break. I'm taking a month off just to kind of reset because I was starting to get a little burnt out. But I don't know. It kind of changes, goes on and off. But I would say for the past year, I've been leaning more towards daytime. Daytime, and then like I'll take breaks, and sometimes I'll just like watch a show or something, watch a documentary, listen to podcasts, and just kind of rest and then start again the next day.
And when you are creating, let's say like you spent the whole day in the studio creating, and it's not going as you planned, are you the artist that like steps out for the whole day, or do you kind of like push yourself to finish, or how do you handle that? Yeah,
usually if it's not going the way that I want it to go, it depends, right? So like, if it's a painting where the concept is very meaningful to me, or like even personal, I'll try to just push myself past the frustration a little bit and get it to a point where I feel happy with where it's at right now, and then I'll stop. Or sometimes I'll just other times I might just stop, take a break, like go take a walk, just step away from the art and just do something completely different.
So as you mentioned, you're taking a month off because you're feeling burnt out.
Yeah.
So how do you take care of your mental health artistically?
So for me, it's nature helps a lot. Like I love nature. Especially if I'm not traveling, like traveling is like the top of the list for me. But when I'm not traveling, like right now, I definitely like to like find a reservation area somewhere. I live in South Orange, so like there's a lot of reservation areas where you can just be like completely immersed in like just by trees and woods, and like they have waterfalls and stuff. So stuff like that, walking the dog, just being outside, meditating. Like I meditated this morning actually, and for me that practice, I kind of go in different cycles with my meditative practice. Sometimes I'll have periods where I'm not really meditating much, and then I'll have other periods where I'm just like every day just kind of meditating. Hopefully I can continue that from today to like another month or so, because I know every time I meditate first thing, like it kind of helps. Yeah, it kind of helps the rest of my day just like go smoothly, and just I'm able to like really be centered for the most part. So like those are different things I like to do.
So you mentioned your love for nature. I did notice like a lot of nature in your work, especially I remember there was one with a little kid in a green field, and he was like running towards kind of like, I think the camera. I think it was a picture.
Yeah. So that's my nephew Kenny.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's my nephew Kenny.
Shout out to Kenny.
And he actually likes to draw and paint too.
Oh, cool.
That painting, so that one is like that's probably like I'm trying to think, is there any other ones? That's like probably the most personal piece I've done this year so far. And that painting was basically, it's kind of like a self-portrait, even though it's my nephew in a painting.
Yeah.
Because he's holding this mask in his hand, and basically that mask kind of signifies a shift in my art. Like right before I graduated from Kean in 2015, my friend at the time, he had the girl he was dating, she had this theater mask, and I guess she used to dance and stuff like that. And for some reason, I was just drawn to this mask. So then I would put the mask on a lot of times. I would take photos of myself with the mask, and then I would like draw, like do sketches of myself wearing the mask. And then I started giving the mask to other people to wear, like friends that were like studying art with me. And then I started like developing characters based on like their personalities and their backgrounds and stuff like that. And the first character was basically created from my personality. His name is Amon. And so that mask kind of signifies that character and this universe that I've been kind of developing since then, of these fictional characters. Some of them have like special abilities and stuff. So in the painting, Kenny is kind of bringing the mask to me, the title of the painting is called "You Dropped This," so it's like I dropped the mask.
Oh, okay.
So like, as the viewer, anybody who's looking at that painting, like Kenny's kind of engaging you as if you're me, and then at the same time, as you're looking at Kenny, from my point of view, as a creator of it, I'm looking at like a reflection of my childhood.
Yeah.
And so like the scene, the landscape around him, that's actually from when I was recently in Jamaica a couple of years ago, and we drove. I can't remember where I was, because that's actually a still from a video. Can't remember where we were driving, but I just loved that whole landscape. And so basically the landscape just signifies just like family lineage, and just, you know, this little kid on this huge vast land is just like signifying wealth and like an estate.
Oh, wow.
And so it's just kind of like depicting just the richness of my family lineage, or just anybody in general who may have like a deep history or roots. So that painting is like super. I'm happy they didn't take that one, actually. Yeah.
No, that's a beautiful painting, because what I thought when I saw the painting, I thought it was either like you as a kid, but I also, like, my first reaction was thinking that it was like you manifesting your future son in the future. And like, you
that's
know,
a great take too, because
manifesting and projecting like how you see yourself like in 10, 15 years.
That and subconsciously that could be a part of it too.
Yeah,
like,
but it definitely makes you feel like you're in the moment, like he's running to you to show you something, or like give you, you know what I mean? Like how kids are when they're excited. So it feel like you can almost like feel like the humidity. You can feel like hear the grass, like, you know, swinging. But yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, grass is like one of my favorite things to paint.
Yeah,
yeah, because there's so much like. There's so much character, like in that you can like really find in grass, especially because I like to observe grass a lot, like if I'm outside or things like that, and it's just like just looking at even just the different types of greens. Like sometimes it's like every time I paint grass or like trees and stuff like that, I'm always pushing myself to kind of find that balance between getting it to look realistic enough, but not being extra. Like I'm not really one of the artists who's trying to be hyper realistic.
Yeah,
it's just that perfect balance. Like I'm always about just finding that perfect fine balance between
no, I got you.
Between you see my technical ability, but then also me giving that expression so that you can actually feel something. So you can feel that energy.
And another thing that I like how you use like mixed media in your paintings. Like I remember, I forget the name of the series, but it was like orangey red ones, and you had like seashells in there.
Oh yeah.
So like how do you do that? Like do you collect them, or is it like from your travels, and like how do they end up like getting on the canvas for you?
So it's those specific pieces that you're talking about, the cowrie shells that's in those pieces, they're from this, I guess, I don't know what exactly that thing was. It was something from Africa though. My aunt, who's in Ghana now, she left behind a bunch of African masks and different things in a barrel.
Oh wow.
And when we opened the barrel at the house, I found this it has a handle. It's underneath the shells, it was like a basket type of texture. It's a bunch of is that hay? I'm trying to think if that's hay or like a straw type, whatever that is.
Yeah, no.
But it's kind of like this like oval. It had like this oval shape to it. I don't know what it was used for, but it had a handle on it, and so that entire thing was just shells.
Yeah.
The entire thing was just shell, and so basically I just pulled every shell off.
Oh wow.
I pulled, and so like all those pieces
individually. Wow. Okay.
So all those pieces, those 5 pieces collectively that I created, all the shells and the pieces were pulled from that, and I just used like I use this gel medium that's is good for gel medium. You can do so many things, but you can like either use it to give your paint some gloss, like the acrylic paint some glossiness and extend it, but then some of them you can also use it to do like collage. So I just like put down a gel medium, and then like I put like thick layers of it down, and then I just like put the shell in the parts of the painting that I want it to be. And then once it dries, it just kind of stays, and it dries clear too, so you can paint on top of the gel medium afterward, and it's just perfect.
And in that series that you did, the is it, because I like the vibe that I got was like all those pieces that were like on the right side of the wall of your studio, like the orangey ones. Was it kind of like not just a series, but it felt like they're almost like related to each other, like it was like a family portrait? You know what I mean? Like they call it be like either characters, so they were all
from a specific from the same village in Côte d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast in West Africa, and that's the Dan people, and they also go by Yakuba, and so basically the smaller ones, those were actually all from the same reference photo. There was like the reference photo I used from that was like a group of all these girls posing together, and you know they had the face paint and everything, the headdress, and they are like these. They do this ceremony in one of the villages there, where it's it translates to like a juggling dance ceremony in English, and basically the men of that village, they take the girls and like they swing them around and things like that, and they throw them in the air, and then they have these like a machete type of knife.
Oh wow!
And they catch them on the tip of the knife without cutting them, and then it's like a whole thing. It's like a whole ceremony. It's like everyone else in the village is circling around them, and there's music and stuff like that, and drumming. And so, I did a painting towards the end of 2022 where it actually like kind of focuses in on these two girls in the air, like flying in the air, and behind them is like the sky and the trees. So like that painting is called like the Flying Yakubas, and so I wanted to kind of do like a deeper dive into their characteristics with the spring residency, and so that's what those smaller portraits were basically, just kind of like zooming in and just highlighting these different characters. And then there was a bigger one as well on that wall. It was like what you call a diptych, which is basically two singular pieces put together. It was the one with the woman had the green eyes, and there was a purple guy beside her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so like that one now was kind of me basically kind of imagining like what one of their deities or goddesses could look like. And so like the green eyes just represents like this concept that I play around with some of the characters I'm developing, of like the green eyes. It signifies like you ever seen the Avatar?
Yeah. With the eyes, like,
like that character now, she has like an incarnation of like what's called the Great Spirit. So like in that painting, on her clothing, there are these symbols on her clothing, and the symbol actually is a symbol that means the Great Spirit within. So like that's another thing that I've been also diving into with the work, which is a lot of that is inspired by Ghana, where during the pandemic I started I would do these paintings, and sometimes these symbols would just come out naturally. And it wasn't until like last September where I actually started like looking at some of these older paintings, and then looking at certain symbols that I really felt drawn to, and then I would draw them in my sketchbook, and then I would just kind of sit with them for a while, and then whatever meaning kind of came to me, I would then write down the meaning beside it to like actually start giving more definition to these symbols that would come out. And so I've been just kind of intentionally placing these different symbols in some of the mixed media paintings I've been doing recently, just to kind of place hints at some of these characters and their story and their backstory and things like that on as I'm developing, so that later on down the line, when things are a little bit more in order and I present whoever story I present first, whether it's in a book form or a film or whatever, people can actually say, oh, wait a second, I seen that painting where I saw that symbol and things like that. Kind of just like subconsciously just like placing these little trinkets in people's brain.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And going back to your creative process, so when you're traveling, are you taking pictures of things that you see and then later painting them in your studio?
Sometimes, yeah. Definitely a lot with both. Sometimes with people. I like to sometimes do life portraits too. So even when I was in Mexico, When I was in Tulum, I did a bunch of life portraits of people that I met, and I actually gave them to the people.
Oh wow!
But then other times as well, I would take photos like the sculptures I would see. I do a lot with sculptures, like the Mayan mask. I took a lot of photos of the Mayan masks. Sometimes even rocks or just like different types of architecture or things like that. Animals, like I'll just take photos and just kind of sometimes it takes me years to even go back to some of them. Oh wow! Because I'm just always collecting ideas and just things that kind of stand out to me, and then I just kind of let time do the rest. Yeah,
and that was actually gonna be my next question. So, how do you, I would say, like decide when you go through your pictures that which one will get like painting out of it and which one will not? Is it like by energy or by like inspiration? How is it for you?
Yeah, it kind of just goes by how I'm feeling that day in the studio, and sometimes it's like in case of this residency, we had to do a proposal when we applied for the residency, so we had to kind of just give an idea, and ideas could shift, but we had to basically submit a general proposal of the subject matter of what we're going to be painting. And so I already kind of knew the realm that I was going to be working in during the residency. So I would bring, sometimes I paint my references from the phone, and sometimes I'll have printouts. Like I have like a folder of like actual printed photos.
Oh wow.
And so I brought those in at some point as well, and sometimes I'll go through some of those and say, okay, you know what, this one could work within the subject matter that I'm doing right now. So sometimes it's just a luck of the draw. Really. Other times if I'm not doing a residency or something, I'm just creating something, it could be today I feel like this, today I feel I feel like that.
And do you always use like the whole photograph, or do you use like pieces from different photographs and combine it into one?
Yeah, I'll do that too. I use pieces, like with the one of my nephew, those were pieces from different photographs. Like the reference for him was actually outside of the house last summer when I got back, and that was actually from a video. And so like a lot of times too, I like working from the videos because then I can take screenshots of certain parts of the videos to really help me capture the movement I want. Because in the video, he was walking up the stairs towards me, and he was asking me if I was leaving. So like I feel like just that still that I got out of that video, it really captured like
the essence,
that essence, that engagement, and that he was actually looking at me and like saying something to me. And then I just took the scene from when I was in Jamaica and just paired it with that. And sometimes it just comes together. Sometimes it's sometimes ideas also just come to me while I'm in the process of painting. And so I might start off with a solid idea, and then in the middle of it I might say, oh no, you know what, I'm going to change that. Like something might just hit me, and I'm like, oh, whoa, yeah, I'm going to do that instead. So my process sometimes can be all over the place, but I kind of like to just respect each part of the process, whether I'm working like with a very concrete idea or whether energy just kind of comes to me as I'm in the process. I try to collaborate between all of them in a way.
I got you. And then going back to your creative process, are you an artist that when you're in the studio, and you're creating like a painting, do you like to hear like an output after you're finished or during your creation? I know that's a tough question.
Typically, in terms of what I would like, it would be after, but I don't mind getting input during the process either, because sometimes, even if I don't want to hear it, sometimes that input is actually very beneficial. And like during the residency, there were times where if I felt like I would stop and felt like I needed a second view of it, I would go over to like Louise or somebody and say, hey, could you come check this out for a second? And then I would invite them to give input.
Yeah.
So, but for the most part, it would be like after, so that, because sometimes what happens is somebody might come into the studio and give input on a piece, but they might give input on something that I already recognize, but they don't realize that I'm still working on it. It's not close to being finished yet. So I'm weird. I go all over.
No, I'm like that too. Yeah. And going back to your creative process, have you ever like created something that you didn't like, and how do you handle that? Like, do you, like me, do you throw it out, or like do you get angry, or do you kind of just like put it to the side and then later go back to it whenever you feel inspired?
So I used to like during the time I was studying art in school, I would rip up a lot of stuff. Yeah, I would rip up a lot of stuff and throw it away.
Do you still do that?
Not as much anymore. No, like the only time that I may do that now is if I'm doing like a sketch, like because sometimes I'll do like a what you call like a thumbnail sketch.
Okay.
When I'm preparing for a painting, and that's just basically like I'll like draw
like outline.
I'll draw like a rectangle or a square depending on how the canvas is shaped. I'll draw that in my sketchbook and then sketch out the image inside of that box, just to kind of give an idea of the composition of the image inside of the canvas. And sometimes if the sketch isn't going out well, I might just crush that up and throw it away. But that's about it for now. Like, and any actual painting that I do, if I don't like it, I make an effort to not destroy it anymore, because I don't know, I guess my I just changed over the years.
Yeah.
Like, somebody would like it. Like,
yeah. No, me too. Like when I was younger.
For me.
Yeah, I used to do that when I was younger. Now I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you get stuck, like artistically, like when you get, have you ever had like a writer's block, like artistically?
Not in a while.
No, because my question was gonna be, how do you get through that?
Yeah, not in a while. I mean, well, okay, so like I don't usually talk about this part of my creativity, but I've also done music as well.
Oh wow!
And so I've definitely had writer's block in that sense of just like writing lyrics and things like that. And I think the last time I even recorded any music was like 2017. But with the art, I have periods where, but for me, I think that's just me just not wanting to paint sometimes, or just it's not really a block. It's just some days like I'll just, besides the break I'm taking now, there'll be times where I'll just be like, oh, I don't feel like painting today. Because a lot of people that know me, they think that I paint every single day. Yeah. And because of the creative output, but I'll go sometimes 3-4 days without painting, but it's not really because it's a block or anything. It's just, I guess, not really feeling up to it, just being tired.
Yeah. And when you're, as you mentioned, you're creating music, are you doing that while you're painting, or is it like a whole day just for music and a whole day just for painting?
So at the time, I would allow my process usually would be kind of, it wasn't all the time, because when I first started writing music, it was actually when I started going to Kean, which is interesting. It was like during that exploration of and I actually started writing after I was reading. Tupac had this poetry book. It was this poetry book that was created called "The Rose That Grew from Concrete," and writing that, I think this was like my I think this was during like the spring, during my spring semester at Kean in 2012. I just started reading that book, and for some reason I just decided, hey, I want to start writing some poetry.
That's
too.
Pretty dope.
And so like I started writing some of that. I started writing some poetry, and then one day I just decided, you know what, let me just find some instrumentals and see if I can do something.
Yeah.
And so like it kind of happened just very organically. And the first year, between like 2012 and 2013, a lot of the stuff that I was writing was kind of just was mostly just me exercising and trying to get better, in terms of flows and different things like that. So it was like all over the place. It was like very explicit stuff at first. A lot of stuff inspired by just like 90s hip hop, Eminem a little bit, because I grew up listening to a lot of Eminem. A lot of controversial stuff about like the government, stuff like that. It was some of those earlier stuff was like that. And then I would say by like late 2013 to 2014, I started becoming more interested in storytelling. And so I noticed that around that time, from like 2014 to like 2016-ish, as I was developing this universe that I was just talking about, it actually started, one of the first concepts came in a song form. And so it started becoming like, I started becoming interested in more melodies, also starting to explore some of my Caribbean roots in the music, like harmonizing and reggae influence, and just making it more about like this world that I've been building and creating music like to be like a soundtrack for the art. And then I kind of just stopped recording altogether, just stopped like working on music, and just been like heavily focused on just mainly the art and developing it. But I don't know, who knows, like I might.
Do you think you're gonna go back? Yeah,
I think it's gonna happen. It's just I don't know when. It might be like a change of environment that I may need to like really bring out the inspiration for that. So we'll see. But I think as the art develops, it will help when it's time, especially because I really do want to work on some type of film at some point for these characters and things like that, just to kind of expand on the art and make it a little.
Do you mean bigger. like an anime movie or like a CGI type of movie? Or both?
Both. I think with the animation aspect of it, that may take some more time.
Maybe artificial intelligence, AI could like do some cool stuff, you know?
Yeah,
Who knows?
If it, I think so. Like, if it, do they have like any AI stuff that creates actual animation? I have no idea,
but everything that I use so far for like,
because I've used like
in terms of podcast, yeah. So like different things that I use that I thought, oh, do they have this? It went above and beyond. So I'm pretty sure they have like, you know, you like describe the characters, description, and then it like create something for you.
Because like back in 2015 too, when I first started with this universe, like I created like a script, and it was the ideas are very loose. And then recently, since the residency, I actually used ChatGPT a little bit to help me develop a short film that I want to do. Okay. With one of the next series that I'm going to be building, which is more kind of like a family. It's going to be diving into like a royal family in one of the villages that I'm working on. And so it gave me like a really cool thing, and then I started tweaking it a little bit. So I think for that one, I want it to be like a using actual real people and doing like some body paint and stuff, because those characters have purple skin. Oh, wow. But eventually I do want to I do see things taking shape in like an animation form, but I want to do it right, you know. So like I want to have like a whole team assisting with that, and like actually have like a team of animators, and like just I'll like workshop with them with the actual ideas and things like that, and they handle like all the technical stuff. Yeah.
And do you have
Did it stop again?
No, it's good. Yeah, it's red. And do you ever think actually, before I ask that question, do you have any of the music that you mentioned that's published? Like, is it like on SoundCloud or any streaming platforms?
I have some stuff on SoundCloud.
Oh, I'll check it out.
Yeah, I have some stuff on SoundCloud. Yeah.
Do you want to share the name or? If you don't remember, you can just like post it to your Instagram, and then we'll share your Instagram later.
Yeah. I'll share. I'll send. I'll share the information with you, and then.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I'll include it. Yeah. I'll include a link. Yeah.
Because you know what it is. Sometimes I get like a little embarrassed. I don't know why that is either.
Bro, I know you mean. It's so tough, and then when you actually like show it to people and you get a good reaction, you're like, wow, I should have done this sooner.
Because especially with some of the old, like there was this one joint project I did. I think this one was the 2014 one. It was like a joint EP, I guess. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe these stuff. There were 12 tracks. The first 4 was my friend Chris, who I worked on with the project with. It was like his solo part of the project. Then the second 4 songs were just me, and then the last 4 was like
you two,
me and him.
Yeah, that's pretty dope.
So like this, I really enjoyed the project for the most part in terms of but when I listen to it now, sometimes I'm like, I get like I don't like to listen to some of those old songs, but I ran into somebody the other day that went to high school with me, and he was like, oh man, I really love that project you guys did.
Oh wow.
And I think at the time when we released it, they were I don't know if they're still around. Dat Piff. There used to be this
like a mixtape drop thing.
Site
yeah. I remember. You could get like samples or loops from there.
Yeah.
Or publish it.
Yeah, and people used to drop.
I think still on. Yeah. I think it's still on.
We released the mixtape there at the time, and I think we also released it on SoundCloud.
Yeah.
So it's up on SoundCloud too. But I remember we had like 1,000 downloads, and I was just like,
wow.
At the time, I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, because I didn't. Even to this day, I don't look at myself as much of a musician or rapper. I mean, it's a part of my family is a musician and stuff. But for me, it was just like I was just having fun. We were just experimenting, just putting music out, and just to see that we actually had got like some type of a good reception from it was pretty cool. So, that was fun. Yeah, but I have some of those songs up there, and I have some songs on SoundCloud as well that I recorded post that project, like some of the ones from like 2016, I think.
Yeah. And do you ever listen to them when you're creating?
Not much.
No?
They're like, there are a few of them that I do have on my phone.
Yeah.
In my like iTunes library. That sometimes if I play my whole library on shuffle, they'll come on and I'll listen to them.
And what's your reaction? You're like, oh my god.
Well, the ones that I made sure I had on my phone, those are some of the ones that
those are the bangers. Like. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like I don't know. I'm very weird when it comes to the music. Like I don't think it's bad music. It's just that I guess because it's been so long now. Sometimes when I listen to it on here, I'm like, like I just get very critical of myself sometimes with the music.
And do you see yourself like trying other mediums in the future? Because you mentioned like the music, the filmmaking, the CGI
definitely,
characters.
Definitely. Like even since I was doing the ESKFF residency, I started getting into sculpting. So that's been fun. I'm actually interested to see how that expands, because the type of sculpting I started doing was like more like found object sculpture. So I took like tree barks and stones and different things like that, and just kind of created these forms out of it. But I'm interested at some point later on down the line to getting to like more traditional sculpting, like using clay and like ceramics and stuff like that. And I did take a ceramics class when I was at Kean. So
and how was that for you? Do you have like any ideas?
It was cool. Like
is this something like you will try to pursue in the future if you have time? Yeah,
I think so. I think like time, the space, just somewhere where I can just like really have my ideally I would like to have my own space if I'm doing something like that, where I can just access all the time whenever I want and just be in my own zone, and probably do like I would like to definitely probably work with like a mentor who can teach me like the ins and outs. I'm very big on kind of having guidance when it comes to exploring new things. Until I do that, I don't even like to put those types of labels, like even photography. Like I don't even like to call myself a photographer, even though I can take photos, like because I'm not trained in like the language of photography, or like I don't even know what all the things mean. Like I don't even know like the difference between
me
the
too.
different f-stops and all those different things. So like I feel like once I get trained and I know those things, then I can feel confident about calling myself a photographer, because there's an actual skill to that, and sometimes that gets overlooked.
Do you want to share with us, are you inspired, do you have like any inspirations in regards to like artists, whether it's like in the art business, music business, fashion, anime, filmmaking? Is there anybody like you look up to that you get inspired by?
Yeah, so like during the period when I was going to Kean, and I think even up to like maybe like 2018 or so, there were pretty much people like Caravaggio. I studied some of his paintings because I really liked how he would do like those spotlight. He would be he had a way of just depicting light that was just so special. And then Frida, I really liked like the emotion, like how she wasn't afraid to be vulnerable with her artwork. So I studied that a lot in terms of just inspiring me to just be as open as possible with my work. And then Picasso kind of came later after I watched have you ever seen this documentary called Genius?
No.
Well, it's not a documentary actually. It's like a series. Like so they had 3 seasons. They
when like each episode is a person?
Yeah, the first season was Albert Einstein, about his life, and it was like 10 episodes.
And
so
like a whole season per
like
person. Oh wow,
playing and they go from like their childhood all the way through in 10 episodes. And the second season was the Picasso one. Oh, I loved it. And like it would jump back and forth. So
is it on streaming or is it like on YouTube?
Hulu
Gotcha,
Hulu has it. And then the last season they just did was Aretha Franklin. That was a good one.
Oh, I love Aretha Franklin. I love her.
That series kind of made me understand Picasso a little bit more in terms of his art, because prior to that I didn't really care much for his art. I didn't even care to study what he was about. But through that series I actually learned like not so much about his inspiration, but more so just about his why, like what he really wanted to do, and that kind of inspired me, because he was very technically trained, but he didn't care about just being another technical artist.
So his earlier work, it's like perfection, and later on in life it's so like fluid and free,
and that's the part about him I didn't know, even though I could have easily found that out when I was going to school, but it just, I didn't really care much. And so like, you know, I started to kind of like get a little bit inspired by that, and I would like watch that show whenever I felt like kind of down or just felt discouraged. I would watch that show just for like more inspiration. And recently there's a lot of artists now that I just follow on Instagram that I really love their work. I think I mentioned this in the last time, like Raylis Vasquez, a Dominican artist, Kyrie Turner, a bunch of people. Like there's just so many. Riley Holloway, he's an amazing artist from Texas that I actually met him when I was there in 2020. Amazing work. And music right now, it's kind of I go through these weird periods when it comes to music too. Besides my own music, like I go through these periods where I don't listen to much music.
Oh wow.
This is probably the most music I've been listening to in the past. Is that true though? I've been listening to music a little bit more consistent these past few months, and I guess mainly because of the commute. Whenever I would take the train back and forth Jersey City for the residency, I would just have music playing. So this is the most I've been like actually like listening to music and checking out new albums. I've been listening a lot to who's the artist I've been listening to recently? Gunna. And it's my first time listening to Gunna really. But I really like this new album that he has. There's a band that I love called Khruangbin. Oh my God, I love their stuff, so I listen to them often. There's this band from France, Loose in the Yakuza, and I listen to them on SoundCloud a lot. I've been listening to that album for like a few years now, actually. So like I'll play them sometimes when I'm in the car. But yeah, Bob Marley.
Of course,
Bob Marley's like
all day, yeah.
Lee Scratch Perry. I don't know if you ever listened to Lee Scratch Perry. He's one of Bob Marley's contemporaries.
Okay.
And his music is a little different though, because he wasn't really interested in reggae.
Okay.
Out of all his peers, he wasn't interested in just doing like, you know, the reggae style that he did. He was more of like a rock star. So like he would have, he actually passed away a couple years ago, and he was actually good friends with my grandfather. What I found out.
Oh wow.
He would dye his hair a lot, so sometimes you'll see him with like these pink hair, green
oh wow,
hair and stuff like that. And he made music all the way up into his old age. And he would tour a lot. But his music was very. I'm trying to find a way to describe him so that you can get an idea of an artist who he's like. He kind of like his personality. Sometimes when I would see him, reminded me of like a Jamaican version of like a. I saw traces of Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh wow!
I
was gonna say David Bowie.
Yeah,
like,
I can see a little bit of that
David
too.
Bowie,
David Bowie, Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
I never listened to Willie Nelson, but something about his look, especially in his older age, for some reason.
Got you, but with colorful hair.
Just very experimental, very out there. So I've been listening to his project.
Is his music like on any streaming platforms?
Yeah, you can find it everywhere.
Oh, really? Okay,
YouTube,
cool.
Everywhere. I've been listening to his album that he did in 2004 called Panic in Babylon.
Okay.
When I was in Jamaica recently, my cousin played it for us, and I've been listening to that a lot. He's funny.
Check it out.
He's a funny guy. So I've been listening, just dabbling in different stuff. Killer Mike, I just recently checked out his album. So like I feel like right now I've been kind of just whenever I'm like looking for music to listen to, that's kind of like, okay, cool. Like I'm in like a certain space right now, because usually I would either just listen to whatever I already have in my library, or I'll go through a period where I'm not really listening to much music, and I'll probably it'll just be like podcasts. Like most of the time if I'm in the studio painting, I'm listening to like a podcast or something, or just sometimes I'll even like watch a movie or show while I'm painting, which is weird because I'm not really paying attention to the movie,
exactly. No, I'm like that too. I never watch TV. I just listen. And
I
when I actually watch it, I'm like, this is what they look like?
Yeah.
And do you, like, when you're doing that, when you're creating and you listen to, like, different things like podcasts, TV shows, documentaries, does whatever you're listening to influence what you're working on, or is it just like a distraction, like a way to focus on what you're creating?
It depends. I find that for me, lately, if it's anything in like the anime realm or something like that, or like action type of realm, where it has like these different types of character personalities and stuff like that, it can influence what I'm working on, because like the stuff that I've been working on for the most part these past couple of years have definitely been in that realm of storytelling, fictional character development, mythology. So anything that kind of can like give inspiration with that, I find that sometimes some of those elements seep into the work.
Oh, that's pretty dope. And do you also do you always have had that reference?
What,
in regards to your work?
I think for like the past for like a while now, actually. It's usually a lot of the stuff that I've been doing in the past 5+ years have been, have mythological inspiration, African inspired, tribal, and just indigenous type of inspirations. And then they're just like those few pieces where it will be just inspired by people I interact with, whether it's people I meet, friends, I'll do portraits of friends. That's like an ongoing thing. So I feel like it's been just in that realm. Like a lot of the work is just in that, for me, it's in that realm of it's either inspired by my travels and my direct environment and what's around me, or inspired by mythology and different indigenous and tribal communities. It's like just that main focus, I would say.
Yeah. And do you always go back to your previous work and try to like reference something into like the present time?
Sometimes, if it relates to what I'm working on now, like even those pieces that you were talking to me about earlier with the orange and stuff like that, that subject matter, when I look at those pieces, it brings me back to 2017 when I did a series called Omo, and that series was it depicted the different tribes of the Omo River Valley in southern Ethiopia. And so like that whole series was just about kind of celebrating the beauty of these tribes that have been on this land in this region of Ethiopia for centuries. And there was some controversy. The reason why I decided to focus on that group was because at the time I found out that, you know, a lot of them were being displaced from their lands because you know, corporate interests, what happens everywhere, like, you know, it's corporations coming to the land and building there's this huge dam that was built on their land that was like, you know, using a lot of the water from the river to like power their plantations, sugarcane plantations. And a lot of these tribes are like, some of them are semi-nomadic, so some of them travel during certain seasons, and some of them depend on the water to fish and things like that. So their livelihood was being disrupted, and the Ethiopian government wasn't really doing much to help them. They were just, you know, taking whatever money they were getting from these corporations, and these people were just being put in camps and things like that. And
that's horrible.
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of just shed a little bit of light on that subject matter, but I didn't want the paintings to be showcasing any type of struggle. So I just focused on some of
the beauty,
like some of the paintings showcased them during their traditions. Like they have this in the I think that was the Hammer group. They do this ceremony. It's like a rite of passage for boys to become men, where they have to run across the backs of these bulls without falling. They have to like 6 times.
Wow.
Yeah, and once they do it, then it's like, now you're like a man. Like a wife is chosen for you. So it's like very that whole ceremony too, very like elder matriarchal type of society. And as they're preparing to do the ceremony, the sisters of those boys, they're also there cheering them on and chanting. And then there's like this, some of it is very like, some people might look at some of this stuff that they do and be like, whoa, like that's strange, because leading up to the ceremony of them running across the backs, the women who were like sisters of some of these boys going through the ceremony, they like taunt some of the other men, and the men whip them on their backs, and you see like these little swells on their backs, but it's like a part of their ceremony. It's like a part of the actual practice of their ceremony.
Jay, I want to thank you so much for being on my podcast. I really appreciate it. We got a chance to finally talk at a longer length than last time in your studio. Do you mind sharing your Instagram and website with us?
Oh yeah, so the Instagram is jgoldingart. That's JayGoldingArt, and the website is pretty much the same thing, jgolding.art.
Okay, perfect. All right, got you. So please make sure to follow him. I'm going to be sharing the music too, along with the artwork, if you don't mind. And hopefully next time we talk again, it will be about your new cinematic film work and all of that, and sculptures and pottery and stuff like that. So thank you again for being here. Until next episode. Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to Tariq Talk. Follow Tariq Talk on all social media channels and check out the video interviews online.